It's exactly 60 years from Vav Tishrei Tafshin Chafhei to Tafshin Pehei, and today is Daled Tishrei. It is 60 years since the idea of my Shlichus to Greenland was brought up to me. And a lot of the details there was involvement with the Rebbe beforehand and while I was there and after I came back. So I want to give a little bit of a summary of what happened and many details about Vav Tishrei, which are not so well known, the way I saw it then on the day that Shabbos, that very difficult Shabbos for all of us. It's a long story, so I want to divide it into four and do it over the Yomim Hasmuchim. Number one, the background to the whole Shlichus. Number two, Vav Tishrei and what happened, and etc., and how it touched it. Number three, Thule Air Force Base, where I was the whole trip there, and what happened over Yom Kippur. And number four, what happened afterwards, and when I was called to Rabbi Chadakov with messages from the Rebbe and things that happened regarding it afterwards. So I want to just first of all today speak about the background to explain why it's a top secret base, and the Department of Defense of the United States is in charge of allowing people to attend that base. There's an Air Force base in Thule, Greenland. Thule, Greenland is a few hundred miles, maybe 500 miles, it's less than 1,000 miles from the North Pole. It's a place where 4 months of the year it's only light, 4 months of the year it's only dark, about 2 months is Ben Hashmoshes, and 2 months is semi-normal. Just to give you an idea, the shkia I had to check this out, on Erev Yom Kippur that year, the shkia at that Air Force base was 7:28 daylight time, and on Yom Kippur it was 7:14. In other words, the shkia was moving 14 minutes per day, and it was not that long after September 21st. So the background is that the Americans were surprised in Pearl Harbor in 1940 by the Japanese. So they decided to make an early warning system. That was the basis of the Cold War, that in case the enemy shoots a lethal missile, you have advance notice, and it's enough notice to be able to give a strike against them as well. And so the Americans created a shield on the northern hemisphere in 3 places. In Canada, the very north of Canada, there's a base, and in the north of England, and in Greenland. And between them, they cover anything that comes from the Soviet Union, from Eastern Europe. Any missile would be detected. Today they have satellites. They have satellites then, not as sophisticated as today. The place still exists today. And it was top secret. The radar installation is inside a big building like a golf ball. It's the largest radar in the whole world, and so you shouldn't be able to see where it's. I think that's the reason, but it was in this large golf ball of a building. Now, the conditions there are so extreme that the Air Force men who were sent there were sent for 1 year, and no women can come there, no wives. There was just the Air Force people, and there were so many nervous breakdowns amongst the people that they changed it. It became a year, but it's divided. You go for half a year, and then you go home for a few weeks, and then you come back for another 6 months. And every single serviceman there knew exactly how many more days they have until they have to leave, and until they can go back home. Besides that, all the technical side and the professionals, doctors and things, is a very, very big field. It was run by the Radio Corporation of America, RCA, which owned NBC, a very major, I don't know how it is today, but it was then like the biggest communication type of company, and they provided the technical electronic matters, that company, and people who worked for them. I asked people there to find out why they came there. They would come there because they could make in a year. That's what people told me. The Jewish people, engineers, doctors, young guys in their 20s, they said they can earn there 3-4 times as much as in America without having to pay taxes. So they went there, and then they set up their homes when they came back. Just want to give you just a musag, a little bit of an idea of what kind of a place and where the background is. Now, one of the people working there, maybe it was the only one that kept kosher, was a man by the name of Chaim Tweety, alav shalom, from Brooklyn, and his wife was in New York, maybe Manhattan, New York, and she would send him kosher food every few weeks, a package. And she would buy that by Rabbi Label Bistritsky, alav shalom. He had that store, 27.5 Essex, or whatever it was called, a small, a narrow, a big store in the east side. He would send her the packages. Now, it came before Rosh Hashanah, Tavshin Chav Hei, he was there, and he told his wife that they don't have a shofar. So this was maybe a month before, 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. So his wife told Rabbi Bistritsky, says, anything you can do about it? Rabbi Bistritsky went to Rabbi Yudel Krinsky. And Rabbi Yudel Krinsky phoned up the Jewish Welfare Board, who was supposed to deal with servicemen and things like that. So they said 2 weeks notice is not enough because it's a very delicate, sensitive place, and it's not enough notice. We need much more notice to be able to work through all the people that you have to do about it. So Rabbi Yudel went and approached a man by the name of General David Sarnoff. David Sarnoff was the head of RCA, Radio Corporation of America, a very famous Jew at that time, and he was also the president of the largest Reform congregation, Temple Emmanuel in Manhattan. They had their services on the radio, it was all these big vehement things. What I didn't know, I knew about David Sarnoff, was that he was actually born in Poland. He was probably a Jew like David Chase, who had not met Shluchim, like Rabbi Herson and Gopin, etc. He called him up, and David Sarnoff said, I'll do whatever I can. I have to, it was not easy, but he went and got permission to send the shofar to Greenland, and this Chaim Tweety came back on some Gedalia for Yom Kippur. He was going to be home. And he was all excited. I'm not sure if he spoke to Rabbi Krinsky or to Rabbi Label, Bistritsky, but anyway, he said that 180 people heard shofar. That was how I was told the story. And Rabbi Krinsky approached me today, 60 years ago. It was Thursday, Dalet Tishrei. My wife was in England. We went to England for my brother-in-law's wedding on beginning of Elul, and I came back for Shlichus, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and she came back to New York before Sukkot with our son, who was a few months old. That's a different story. And Rabbi Krinsky just told me about the story. I came into 770 that evening, and he said, how would you like to go there? I said, look, I'm an ovel myself, and it wasn't really on the card, but see, the end is that same evening, Rabbi Chadakov called me into his office. And he said, Shmuel, ich hab von dir a Shlichus. And I said, what's the Shlichus? And he said, to go to Greenland. The point is that Chaim Tweety had a chaver from the Mira Yeshiva where he studied in Ocean Parkway. He had a chaver who was ready to go, was a rabbi. But Rabbi Krinsky said that since it's not an easy thing to do, you need special clearance from the Pentagon itself, from Washington, for any person that visits there. And if Lubavitch is organizing it, it has to be a musmach of Tomchei Tmimim. That's what he asked me. And so Rabbi Chalakov said, I have the shlichus for you. Now, I was not, it sounded exciting, but I was concerned because I was a novel. And the fact that Rabbi Krinsky told me was fantastic. The fact that Rabbi Chalakov told me was super fantastic. But I wanted to know, really, is this that they need to find somebody, or is it me? Is it something which the Rebbe wants me to do? In which case, then no holds barred. I'll do anything. So I asked Rabbi Chadakov, I said, "Dos hashlichus vi chazan chassidus in our shul yeder Shabbos. Is this like speaking at Shalashudas time in shuls, which everyone is supposed to do, but it's not a specific person for a specific place, or is it with my name?" So he said, I will tell you. The Rebbe told me to tell you that you should not worry about the fact that you'll be a chazan in the Yomim Noiroim, even though you're an oval, it's 100% mutter. So I said, okay, if that's the case, I'm ready to go. Then he told me about the 180 people who heard Shofar Rosh Hashanah. I found out later on, I asked the people in Greenland, they said maybe 9 people heard it. Or maybe the Minyam had 9 people. Maybe he blew for other people. I don't believe there's anywhere near 180 Jews there at that time. And but anyway, so he said that the Rebbe said that all travel, accommodation, and expense for the food that you have to take with you, Merkez will pay. And you should go to the mikveh on Union Street and speak to the lady who looks after it tomorrow, Friday, and get about 200 sets of paper slippers that they have there in the women's mikveh on Union Street, and take them with. If there's 180 Rosh Hashanah, there'll be more Yom Kippur. And take the Rebbe's English letter, which just came out, take that with you. And there were also Chomer from Merkez, and also Chomer in Danish. Greenland is owned by Denmark. So therefore, there were 2 booklets. One was the Merkez booklet, a small pamphlet called Shabbos, which translated into Danish, and the 2 letters of the Rebbe about the age of the universe, they came out in a Choveres, which I got, and I took a couple of copies with me. Right. Now, then I went and I bought a kittel, and I bought there was no kahos machzah in English. I was going to use my kahos machzah, which I had, the old print from New York, but I bought a Philip Birnbaum English machzah also, so I could study it beforehand, be able to explain to them some background, a bit of chayma. There's people who are very, very, very unfamiliar with anything. And I bought food. But meanwhile, we didn't get the permission from the Pentagon. The permission had to be given before Sunday evening, Zion Tishrei, the last plane to Greenland before Yom Kippur, which was Tuesday night. The last plane was leaving on Sunday. The Pentagon permission, they said, takes 5 working days to get it, even if they were going to give it, even if you didn't have the person to ask for it. Rabbi Krinsky called up I forgot to mention this, he called up the Jewish Welfare Board, and they were exasperated. They said, if the Lubavitch Rebbe were told to get someone to go to Calcutta, India, for Yom Kippur, would you be able to do it? He says, if we had to do it, we would do it. They said, we cannot do it. We don't work like that. So he called up General David Sarnoff, and he said, getting a shofar is one thing. Getting a person needs this special clearance, and I'm going to work on it. And he went to work on it. Meanwhile, we were going, Rabbi Chadakov told me, go ahead as if everything's going to happen. And the Rebbe went to the Ohel on Hey Tishrei, on Friday. About midday or sometime, I was in the Americas the whole time, finding out what's happening. Rabbi Krinsky was at the Ohel. In the car, he had a cell phone. A cell phone then was a big thing. You know, it was a very big thing. It's not something you can put into anybody's pocket. It was like a big machine, like an old-fashioned tape recorder. And but he had one there for emergencies. And the Rebbe told him at some stage to check up to see if the permission was given. And just before then, David Sarnoff called up to the Americas and said that he tried everything and there's no way they're going to give the permission. And I suggest that Lubavitch has very good public relations. Use every single avenue you have in public relations, and the United States Defense Department, the Air Force, will not like having bad publicity. So that's the way to maybe, that was his advice. And that was given over to Rabbi Krinsky. He got on the phone. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm going to tell you a few things. All I could tell you is that the involvement in getting the permission, which I didn't know till Motzi Shabbos, except that they never gave me mashka on Shabbos. But the involvement of the government, there was an involvement of the two state senators of New York, even though they were Republicans and there was a Democratic president. The president's office itself, President Johnson, was involved. And it looks like Rabbi Shmuel Shraga, there was a few letters mentioning him. He was, Alav Shalom, he had arranged the patrols in Brooklyn, the forerunners of the Shomrim. They were called the Maccabees. And it was very public in all the papers. So he was a well-known figure at that time, those months. And he made a lot of calls. But the one call that I know about, and I have correspondence also with the Rebbe, with these people, is as follows. Rabbi Krinsky is from Boston, and there he knew a very prominent Jewish doctor called Dr. Rosengard. Rosengard had a clinic called the Rosengard Clinic. He was like the Melech. You had a whole clinic. People would see all kinds of doctors, and he was a specialist. He'd see you for 15 minutes, a half hour, and he had top clients. One of his clients was a man by the name of John McCormick. You might not have heard of John McCormick, but he was the next in line to the presidency then. He was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the law of the Constitution of America is that if the president is dead or incapacitated, the vice president takes over. And if the vice president is incapacitated, then the Speaker of the House takes over. He was the Speaker of the House, and there was no vice president because Kennedy had been shot a year before. So Johnson was the president. He was next in line, Speaker of the House. And Dr. Rosengard called up John McCormick. John McCormick, who was a religious man, a Protestant, he said, I'm a personal close friend of Eugene Zuckert. He is the Secretary of the Air Force in the President's cabinet. And he is a religious Catholic, and he respects religion, and he will do something about it. And Eugene Zucker told him, John, if that rabbi is not on the plane, someone's going to have to answer to me. In other words, he got personally involved. We didn't know that until after Shabbos. That's in the next voice note. So we'll continue with the story of Tishrei in Yetz Hashem in the next voice note.